As I am reading this morning's news about Uber trying to become profitable and just laying off 400 employees, I immediately grabbed a piece of paper and a pen and I started jotting down the points that I thought would lead to profitability, right? Now, I understand that the major shareholders, and I'm just going to read them out here, Matt Kohler, Benchmark Capital, Travis Kalanick, Garrett Camp, H.E. Yasir Al-Ramayan, the Saudi Arabia Public Investment Fund, Ryan Graves, Google, SoftBank, John Thane, and many more, really thought that they would cash in at least double, right? They truly thought, and let's face it here, for the average guy, for the average driver, for the average man on the street, these guys just got really, really, really fat paychecks, but they were expecting to make more. And I think it has a lot to do with the culture of this company, the greed from the get-go. Let's take our pioneer, Travis Kalanick. Now, I believe he truly did everything the right way in the beginning to open up markets aggressively. You needed a Travis Kalanick, right? Otherwise, this model would have never been born. He simply walked into cities. He just did what he wanted to do. He introduced the model and faced the headaches and the legal problems later. But by doing that, he established market presence and opened up a national and international market. Lyft just slotted in and flew under the radar. Now, at some point, when you put out a lot of the fires, a lot of the legal problems, there has to be a cultural switch. And you got to say to yourself, okay, now that we've established markets, let's change our culture, right? And let's see how we can improve things. And what Uber and Lyft have never done, right? And I want the public investor to know this, right? Not just the big boys, but the public, is that this cultural of greed or go it alone, arrogance, right, never ever incorporated the driver. That's why I say this is how we make Uber and Lyft profitable, right? We, the drivers, we, the company, we, the executives, should be working together, right? They should be building bridges to their drivers. They should be treating them well. And once you have that type of peace and harmony within the company, and people really enjoy working for the company, everything flows automatically. But that's not the case here, right? So the way Uber and Lyft approaches this is like, hey, let's completely ignore the biggest part of our company, the drivers, right? And let's just constantly experiment and try out things and see if we can start turning a profit. It'll never happen unless you truly, truly change the culture. Now, the one thing I looked at all the resumes of the individuals running these two shows, and I say to myself, are they from the gig economy? Do they understand the rideshare business? And to understand any business, right, to run a successful pizzeria one day, you got to be there in the kitchen with your dad and with your mom, and you got to learn how to roll dough, right? And you got to know how to apply the right amount of cheese, the right amount of base, and get that perfect flavor in the wood oven or whatever oven you're using. But you got to understand the tools of the trade in order to run a successful pizzeria, right? Marketing is a whole nother story that these guys truly, truly haven't mastered. Now let's talk about marketing. When you go out and shop 400 employees, that to me makes sense because whatever they're doing is not working, right? The fact is Uber should be concentrating on the international market, right? And building out its international base. What they don't understand is that the United States are masters in social media marketing. So when you empower the driver to bring in new drivers, recruit drivers, that formula works, right? But the moment you create an incentive, a marketing incentive of $10 per driver, right, for a new driver that has to then reach 100 trips, you're basically saying to himself, that individual that you bringing me, I'm giving you 10 cents for each trip for the first 100 trips. No person in their right mind would walk a mile and do that for Uber and bring them a person in Fresno or Bakersfield, California for $10, right? So Right there, you have a big marketing problem. We're going to talk about marketing first. I think we truly understand that the cultural change needs to take place, right? The bridges towards the drivers, there are many, many ways they can create that. Give them a voice, bring them to the table, have a team of drivers from all around the country sit at the table and help you in the decision making. That is a step in the right cultural direction. But let's go back to marketing. When it comes to marketing, what I've seen in my various .coms is that the international markets, let's just say Germany, Austria, Portugal, Spain, they don't truly understand the social media marketing as we do here in the United States, right? So I don't think the true potential has been brought out in international drivers to recruit international drivers and start really increasing your earnings. These guys should be doing big numbers in Berlin, Germany, in Lisbon, Portugal, Madrid, Spain, all the big European cities, all the big South African cities, all the big Australian cities. They have not even tapped into their true potential. I would carefully say that they're on the 15% mark. They haven't even scratched the other 85% mark. And the way you do that is that you allow and you incentivize good marketers, all your YouTube influencers, right? Your Harrys, your Dustins, your Torstens, to make money in those international markets. Incentivize them so that they start going out there and recruit drivers for you. When you are not paying a US driver to recruit an international driver, you're shooting yourself in the foot. You have failed in your marketing model. And the only thing that's really working for Uber and Lyft is allowing drivers to recruit drivers. But both Uber and Lyft have not understood how to truly incentivize and reward the driver for bringing in a new driver, and then also rewarding the new driver for hitting targets, right? They have this so-called guarantee program that just ends up frustrating any newbie and actually ultimately turns the newbie against the company. Learn from that Uber, learn from that Lyft. That formula is not working for you. What you truly need to do is allow drivers to recruit drivers and incentivize them properly. You can cut back on your marketing labor force in North California. It's not working. Let your drivers bring you drivers and reward newbies as well as your strongest recruiters, right? Recruiting companies make a lot of money. That is your marketing right there. Your radio ads, your TV ads are not working. People are not taking to them. And where Uber and Lyft are burning so much cash, and I know this because I've tried this for a few .coms, is that they are engaging in pay-per-click advertising with Google AdWords, etc., and that is just racking up massive, massive costs. No, rely purely on your drivers to bring new drivers, and give your US driver who understands social media marketing, reward him accordingly if he brings you an international driver. Don't let the excuse be, well, there's a problem with dual taxation. Dual taxation is not a problem. People pay their taxes in various companies. You can find the legal loophole to get around that one, but you've never explored it, right? So the other thing is to keep and retain drivers, because your retention level is so low. They come in, they burn out, they leave because they're disappointed. They're disappointed in the culture of the company, the way the executives are treating the drivers. That brings me to the next point. If Google, SoftBank, and all of these companies truly want to see profits, your top dogs cannot be earning $40 million, $45 million a year. You have to halve that. You would get a competent leader to run this company for $20 million. You would immediately free up a few $100 million in salaries by really cutting these guys 50%, right? They are paid way too much. They are bringing you way too little. And now I want to get to another big issue. The CEO of the company, the drivers don't like him. They really, really do not like Derek Kay. They feel like, and I've interviewed so many drivers, and I'm going to give you this feedback. I've interviewed drivers live in various cities, right? And they do not like Derek Kay. the arrogant style, the unwillingness to work with drivers, the go-it-alone attitude, pretty much that Travis Kalanick established, has rubbed off on Dara, and he's doing the very same thing. You need a guy who truly will bring the drivers to the table. You need a guy who will address the AB5 problem in California so it doesn't have a ripple effect and you have to shut down this company, right? That would literally bankrupt this company overnight if that took place. You need a guy who immediately steps in and says, I want representatives from each city to sit down with us. That culture is missing with Uber and Lyft. So I'm telling you right now, these companies, even like the Saudi Arabia Public Investment Fund, you've put so much money into the SoftBank, you've put so much money into it, and you could really, really make profits here. But your number one problem is that you have to get rid of the top 3 or 4 people on the top. I really think that Travis Kalanick wants to see his company, his original company, succeed. I think he should come in. He should be willing to work on himself. He should be willing to admit to a lot of the problems that he introduced to this company. And he should really work on trying again. Fresh new start, right? And working with the drivers. Now, I have a couple of points that I want to share with, people that may be interested in my formula. I've already addressed the international driver market, right? You could triple the amount of drivers if you address this the way I explained it to you, right? You could increase the US base if you truly incentivized and rewarded drivers, bringing in drivers properly, right? You also, let me just check on my list here. You really have to put the money into security and safety, right? Because if anything happens to a rider or a passenger, it's all over the news. The media love the Uber and Lyft horror stories, right? So you have not spent the money on safety and security. You have not plugged the holes. You have not brought out a better system across the board, nationally and internationally, that will stop getting you into the negative headlines. So $50 to $100 million will have to be spent there, and it should come from your top brass. That money needs to be spent on looking and exploring every single way drivers and riders can be kept safe. Because the moment they feel that they are being kept safe and they are taken care of, the newspaper stories will disappear, the online stories will disappear, and the riders will have more confidence in this app and they will stay. They'll not leave, right? When a mother or a father constantly reads about these negative headlines, they will not let their son have an Uber or a Lyft. Their son or their daughter have an Uber or Lyft app account down the line. No, it's too dangerous. In fact, it might even be more dangerous than a taxi. That's because the media is obsessing over Uber and Lyft. Safety issues, harassment issues, death issues, assault issues. These make the headlines almost weekly. Uber needs to stop and plug that hole, right? Now, one of the big ones that Uber and Lyft have never done or successfully tried out is increase the rider fares across the board and give back at least 15 to 20% of the drivers. Within the last year, ladies and gentlemen, Uber has literally chopped back earnings for drivers by 20-25%. What used to be a 75-25 split is now a 50-50 split. Drivers are leaving. So if they want to know why this company is not making a profit, if they want to know why they're burning through drivers, they have to address that issue. Increase rider fares and give a part of that back to the driver. The other portion can go and flow back into the company, right? But they have to take that bold step, right? They also have to stop constantly fighting drivers, right? Turning a blind eye shying away from the strikes and instead of addressing why drivers are striking, why they're unhappy, is not going to drive this company forward. And quite the opposite, it's going to drive it down. So the sooner they stop this fighting culture and pretending that these strikes and these issues are not real, the sooner they wake up and realize, hey, let's talk to our workforce, let's create a happy workforce there. Together, we're going to succeed and make this company profitable, right? The other thing is where they really need to cut back and stop is with the daily, weekly experimenting, changing the app, spending astronomical amounts with the engineering teams, on the app. The app has to have the basic functionality, right? We know what the basic rider and driver functionality are. They're there. Don't constantly switch around and try different things. Work with what works best. If you have categories that are making you money, stick with them. The rest, eliminate them, right? Uber knows where it makes its profits, right? And introducing the comfort category, if that is working for them, if that's also working for drivers, then stick with it. But don't constantly keep on experimenting and change things weekly. It drives the drivers crazy, and they will not put up with it. I can tell you that. Another major issue, my friends, is the call center, the help center for drivers. It needs to be shut down overseas. If it's in Manila, Philippines, or if it's in Bogota, Colombia, shut it down. Bring a small, effective team to the United States. In a city, employ US people, set up a center there, and train the people and really bring a group of drivers together and understand where they had the issues with the call center and make it better, right? I'm surprised that many years later, the same issues, years and years later, and I've been with the company for many years driving all the different categories, that the same issues that I'm having are misunderstood on the other side, right? So you truly need to have 100, 200 drivers at your head office and say, okay, let's go through all the Uber support issues that you've had. Number one, they'll tell you they don't understand this. Number two, they'll tell you cut and paste, just giving you an autoresponder is disrespectful and is not addressing the issue. These type of things have been explained to Uber over and over again. However, they have never ever fixed them. They need to shut down their overseas, just like Dell did, shut down your overseas help center and get a task force going, maybe in Arizona, maybe in Dakota, maybe in the Carolinas, and train people up to understand and address driver issues and fix them right away. Don't have a driver have to call and call and call and call again and respond and respond and respond again. You are turning a $10 issue, you're turning an issue that costs $10, where he's fighting for $10, into $20 to $30 of support, right? So you are just increasing your costs and you're not fixing the problem. Your call center is not working, ladies and gentlemen. What else do I want to share with these investors that are looking for a profit? And start by laying the foundation, the brickwork, build the slab, pour the concrete, right? And start a center where you create a better relationship, more bridges towards drivers, a happy workforce. And I can tell you right now, they're very unhappy. You just have to go into all the live feeds. You just have to go into all the YouTube channels and read how much venom, toxicity, right? Toxic anger is there in those feeds, right, towards Uber. And a lot of it is geared at this guy. So the top dog, sorry, Dara, but you got to go. I think you're better in the Travelocity world, in the airline world, in the travel business. I think that's your forte. But the people do not trust you. The people do not trust Uber because so much damage has been done, right? Fix it, address some of the issues, get a lot of new drivers on board, incentivize them, reward them, create reward programs with hotels, with restaurant chains, with airlines, so that here and there the driver sees, gains for himself or herself, and they want to stay with you. What I see, and I get 300 to 400 messages every single day, is that drivers are disappointed. They feel they're let down by Uber and Lyft. They cannot trust Uber and Lyft anymore. And it all has to do with the culture. This culture, this virus within these companies has to be eradicated. It's like a cancer that has to be removed. And then you get the chance to start fresh. You have the base, you have the markets, you have the technology, you will have our support. You will keep riders if you address some of the issues that I've mentioned in this video and change them for the positive. But first of all, start incorporating this word here. We are a family. There's executives, there's shareholders, there's your workforce, there's your clients, the riders. We are all an Uber and Lyft family. That's where you have to connect. That's where you have to fail. That's where you have to change the culture of the company, right? And I think everything will fall into place. And if you really want to know how to build out the international markets, I would love to help you. I think that has been your biggest failure. If I see how few people in Germany or how few people, friends of mine in Spain or all over Europe or South Africa use Uber or want to drive for Uber, it just means you have failed to connect with them, right? And you have to use your best marketers to engage with your international markets, and you have to reward your best marketers, right, with proper, decent incentives. And that is your one and only marketing cost. Scrap your TV advertising, scrap your radio advertising, and reduce your pay-per-click online marketing, right? Concentrate on drivers, bringing drivers, reward them accordingly, and especially allow US drivers to build out your international markets for you. I'll gladly show you how to do that. I really will. It's not difficult, but I have seen no step in that direction, right? Now, as a closing argument, we the drivers, right, and I am a voice for drivers, a VFD as I call myself, that's my title. You might be the CEO, I'm a VFD. We want to work with you. We want to keep our jobs. We want to improve the culture, the earnings, the overall status of your companies. So work with us, please, and reach out to us, bring us in. Why not bring in a few hundred drivers for a weekend camp to Uber, right? And don't constantly change your model, right? We know the 180 days of change was an absolute, utter failure, right? And if you want to also work on improving hubs, what you can do there, fine-tuning your hubs instead of hemorrhaging money and creating hubs that simply don't work, please reach out. Allow us, the drivers, to help you improve the experience. Have a great day.